The world-famous Brands Hatch hosts the opening round of the 2014 season. Welcome to Thundersport Elite. Down here in the paddock, a gorgeous day for a race weekend. I've just managed to catch Phil Crowe, who was second in the GP1 Championship last year, and we normally see him up in those positions each year all the time. So Phil, I've caught you for a quick interview here. Like I say, second in the Championship last year. How do you think it's looking ahead for this year? Is the bike running well?
Yeah, running well. Struggled a bit all last year actually, to be honest. We had some set-up issues with the bike, and it took us all year until the end of the season, in fact until January this year, to solve them. But we've been out testing in Spain, we've got all the issues sorted. I've gone under a lot of my personal bests out in Spain, personal bests back in England, breaking lap records here today, and yesterday racing Rob McNeely. Yeah, I think we're looking good for the championship. Everything's working how I want it. I've got a new engine coming for the next round, which I'm just struggling with a bit of top end speed at the minute. McNeely's getting away from me down the straights and making it hard work for me. But we've got one more chance to have a go at him, so we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, so we're in a good position, feeling strong. Just need to pull the pin down and see what happens.
Well, it all sounds like it's going well, and I'm sure you've got some sponsors on board again for this year.
Yeah, I've got a new sponsor on this year, Hans Transhaulage from Immingham. Mel Hans come in this year to help me with the roads campaign and also with the short circuit campaign. So yeah, big thanks to them for joining the team. And then my usual sponsors, Old Beach Motorcycle Tyres, Fleetwood Grab Services, Objectum Modernisation, B&C Express, Silcoline, and various others that I've probably forgot, but we'll try and remember. Oh, Smudged in Market Raising, and then there's always a collection of people who help throughout the year and just come in, and if we're ever short of anything, there's a lot of part suppliers that help us, and people help with a bit of cash here and there. But yeah, we've got a lot of support. We've just got to make it happen now.
Well, thank you very much there, Grace, and of course to Phil Crowe. Here we are then, 2014, a new season, the 7th season for Thundersport GB. And that man there, Phil Crowe, we just spoke about, number 71, lines up on pole position. Rob McNeely, the competition, I suppose you could say, that he just mentioned, starting second on the grid, and third there, Danny Murphy, the current Superstock 1000 champion, who's back on the grid. A real competitive field here at Brands Hatch. And I cannot remember the last time we started a Thundersport GB season with such beautiful weather, lovely blue skies, and the sun is out. Hence why the lap records are going so far and away from the line we go. And Phil Crowe will be looking to win the championship. Of course, it was Ingram's last year, but it's going to be Rob McNeely that takes the whole shot down into Paddock Hill and up into Druids for the first time, just on the inside line with the number 1 plate on his bike there was Danny Murphy. But all sorts of riders to keep an eye out for. Nice to see that 111 Alex Heaton is back out with us, having been injured for the most part of last year. Look out for him. And just on number 110 there, we saw quickly a moment ago Stephen Murphy, and Connor Tagg is out there on the Night Road Racing Ducati, number 100, as they come around clearways for the first time. A wide line there, that was from 1 or 2 riders, but it's McNeely that leads from Phil Crowe as they come across the line for the first time. Rob McNeely, a regular at British Championship. He certainly knows his way around Brands Hatch. It's his local circuit. Phil Crowe hasn't always had the best of starts at Brands Hatch. It's been a bit of hit or miss for him, so we'll have to see how he performs today. But with no John Ingram, he definitely comes into this round as the favourite. Other riders to look out for, you mentioned Danny Murphy already, 224, Barry Teasdale, a rapid improver last year, John Waghorn, and plenty more, but we'll keep our eye. There's a few 600s out there as well, which could feature well around Brands Hatch, and Phil Crowe already trying to attack Rob McNeely. You can see the different lines there, and the rear tyre of Phil Crowe's bucking and weaving under the strain of the power around Clark Curve. So already Crowe settling into this race and trying to find away past Rob McNeely out front. Not entirely sure if Rob is competing the whole season, but either way, at the moment he is there and he needs to be worried about. There is Alex Heaton, 1-1-1 back in third place, and that's Danny Murphy just behind him. Danny, who at one point we thought he might be travelling over to Spain this season to race, but wasn't quite able to muster up the sponsors, but an extremely talented rider. Got injured towards the end of last year, but definitely worth keeping an eye on for the whole season. You can see the two completely different lines being taken there by Rob McNeely and Phil Crowe. Rob McNeely is on the super stock machine, the BMW, whereas Phil Crowe's is tuned. Around Brands Hatch, it shouldn't make an awful lot of difference, with the exception of getting all the power, and that's Crowe, and he's gone off big time, down into Paddock Hill, he's up and he's walking away, but Phil Crowe, perhaps the favourite, has gone down. That was after setting a pretty good lap time there. Nice to see that he's up and walking away, not often the case when people come off at Paddock Hill, but that's an uncharacteristic mistake there from the former Thundersport GP1 champion, and it's left Rob McNeely out in front on his own. Here he comes. He'll be completely unaware that Crowe has gone walkies at the moment as he comes into clearways, but his lead is going to get extended here to some 2 or 3 seconds, and that's not good news for Phil Crowe. He'll have to come back now in race 2 and hope for something better. Further back there is number 2, Simon Critchlow on the Suzuki. He's not having a bad weekend considering the talent of the field. So now Alex Heaton, 1-1-1, moves up into second place with Danny Murphy in third. Barry Teasdale's making progress from 8th on the grid. He's up there fighting. Sam Cox just going through there on a 600 also. So we just get a quick glimpse of 196 Neil Gregory, a former podium regular visitor, just mid-pack at the moment. But there is McNeely that leads, number 30. Rob from Sittingbourne on the BMW. Him and his dad have been coming racing for a long, long time. In fact, he was one of the first riders to set his sights on a 450, I think it was, in Husqvarna, very first year of Thundersport. That's when we first got a glimpse of him. There's Sam Cox, number 54. He's out there on a 600 stock R6 at the moment. He'll be featuring more in the Elite 600 race that's coming up shortly here on Thundersport Elite. There is this battle for second place though between Alex Heaton and Danny Murphy. Now, considering Alex Heaton has had a considerable amount of time out of the saddle, I'm really impressed with how he's taking to Brands here. He's not been racing a lot. I suppose it must have been right at the start of last season that he got himself really heavily injured. So to come back in this sort of form, I think you'll find that Heaton will be battling for wins throughout the season, and McNeely here just putting a lap or two on one of the back markers there. Steve Murphy just going through 1-1-0. David Allingham's also out there as well. David, who you may remember last year, oh, careful Rob, he's trying to find his way in and around some of these tail enders. He's just got to be a bit careful here. He'll have seen what happened earlier on as he just comes up to put a lap on Peter Hobday. Danny Murphy in third, looks pretty desperate at the moment to get himself past Alex Heaton. Heaton at the moment, he's on a Suzuki stock. Now, Danny Murphy's last year's super stock champion. Despite the fact that this weekend he is on stock machinery, he is listed down as a GP1 rider because he'll be getting some slick tyres on that bike soon enough. There goes number 10, that's Neil Bainbridge, who's moved up from the Thundersport 500. That's quite a jump, that is, from the Honda CBR 500 onto a full tuned 1000cc machine. But Rob McNeely here, 47.766. He's not hanging about. Phil Crowe's bike you can see just over there on the right. Phil will be just sitting and watching now and wondering what if. But McNeely's now got about a 4 or 5 second lead. That 47.7 that he's put in is only a couple of tenths shy of the Thundersport GB lap record here at Brands Indy Circuit. That was set by Steve Mercer a couple of years back, and Steve, who certainly knows his way around this circuit. In fact, he's going to be looking forward to his first season full in BSB this year with the Evo team. So just shows you some of the quality. Further back, John Waghorn's up into the top 6 now as McNeely ticks off another lap. David Allingham up in the top 8. That's not bad going on a 600. Carl Simpson is in the top 10 also. We mentioned Adrian Clark, Simon Critchlow, Sam Cox, David Brooke, who's last year was in the pre-national championship, has done very well. He was 20th on the grid. He's up into the points as second place changes. So Rob McNeely it is that still has the advantage. Danny Murphy then desperately trying to get himself ahead of Heaton. They're not going to catch McNeely here, not unless McNeely makes a mistake, and he's just desperately trying to find his way through. Another backmarker. There is Carl Simpson from Cleveland up in the top 10 at the moment, and McNeely putting a lap there on Michael Mace on the Kawasaki. So McNeely just got to find his way. There's David Allingham on the R6 there, just having a decent battle with Simpson. That is for 6th and 7th. And this battle between Heaton and Murphy. Heaton back up ahead of Murphy again now. There is 194. It's Bill Callister, the rider from the Royal Marines, and just behind him, these guys are about to put a lap on him. That is David Allingham there on the all-white Yamaha R6, and then number 16, Carl Simpson, in just behind him. There's a rider down in the background there. Now that looked like an orange machine. That could have been Peter Hobday, I'm not sure. We'll have to confirm that for you in a moment. But Callister's just been lapped there, and there's a change for position between Simpson and Allingham. This is the fight for second place. 111 Alex Heaton and number 1 Danny Murphy. And there's a rider down, and I'm not quite sure where that Alex on the exit of Druids. There is a rider that's gone down now. That is John Fisher, number 29. It was going quite well. Here's a replay out the front. He's gone down. That's a shame for him. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be here for the conclusion of the race in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Thundersport Elite here at Brands Hatch for round 1 of the Thundersport GB Championships. You're watching the Bike Enduro Thundersport GP1. Rob McNeely leads. That there is number 1, last year's Superstock champion, currently in 3rd place with Alex Heaton just ahead of him. This is the race leader, the bright orange machine, number 30, Rob McNeely. Earlier in the race, if you missed it, Phil Crow, who looked like he might be able to put a decent challenge towards McNeely, went down into Paddock Hill Bend. Incidentally, we also lost a little earlier than that. Didn't quite catch it. It was Connor Tagg going down on the night road racing Ducati, who certainly didn't come around. So whether he's gone off or if it's a mechanical, I'm not sure. Just before the break, that bike that's parked up over the left there on the exit of Druid, that was John Fisher. He's up, he's walked away, he's okay. But you are currently looking at a couple of lads here. They're about to just get lapped by 2nd and 3rd place riders. Alex Heaton, there is Alex Heaton, number 111, going around the outside of James Buchanan, who's got that orange vest on. Of course, that is just to note that he is a rookie for this season. Across the line goes Rob McNeely. That's a decent lead he's got, but Alex Heaton is lapping well here. That was a 48 flat from Heaton, and he's just put the slightest of gaps between himself and Danny Murphy behind. There is number 60, Darren Cooper, about to be lapped by the race leader, Rob McNeely. Rob, who would have come here this weekend expecting to podium, although in this race I would imagine he was expecting to have to fend off Phil Crow, who's won this championship a few years back, but hasn't been able to recapture that title. Maybe this year is his year. He's going to have to wait till race 2, though, to get himself on that podium again. There is 111 Alex Heaton. You may remember Alex from a couple of seasons ago in the super stock class on the night road racing Ducati, and then before that he was in what was known back then as a GP2 class, junior power bikes, now known as our sort of super twins and mini twins. He was fighting Alex Hutchinson for that championship a few years ago as well. There's 321 Chris Kingham, a former CBR 500 rider in the Thundersport 500 class with Thundersport. There is Heaton once again, just up ahead of Murphy. There's no sign of these guys being able to eat into that lead that Rob McNeely's got. McNeely keeps on posting these late 47 laps. I can't tell you how quick that is. That is seriously quick. The pace here this weekend, considering it's the first round of the season, is really, really very strong indeed. The lap records that stand at Thundersport GB at Brands Hatch have all pretty much come from a summer event that was held here a couple of 3 or 4 years ago now. The last few Brands Hatch events that we've had that have kicked off the season have all been completely drizzly, wet, horrible things. But this is completely different, and these guys are fighting at lap record pace. McNeely here just a 10th or so away. Oh, and there's a rider there just pulling over. That's Dan Hill, number 75 on his Kawasaki. Enough's enough for him. So with just a couple of laps to go, unfortunately Dan Hill is he's obviously got some sort of mechanical problem, as the marshals, well, one of many ways helping, trying to help him get it back going again. But it's Rob McNeely that looks set to take the win here. He looked strong when they had the race here yesterday, but it looks like he's going to do the business. He managed to win yesterday, 2.5 seconds, but this is his day. Further back there, that is Mace again, but the checkered flag is out and McNeely has done it. No Phil Crow to fight with this time, but he's done well. 16 laps have gone and McNeely wins. We just wait for confirmation as to who gets second place, but it looks like being Alex Heaton, because he had just stretched away from Danny Murphy, and I can confirm that Alex Heaton has, yeah, he has finished ahead of Danny Murphy, and they just give each other the thumbs up there. So McNeely wins, Alex Heaton second. Danny Murphy was the first of the GP1 runners in third place. Barry Teasdale, we didn't see much of him, but it's a good result for him in fourth. John Waghorn, fifth place. And what a good job that is from David Allingham, considering he's on the 600. There is a very happy Rob McNeely, centre of your picture, the race winner in Superstocks. And Danny Murphy wins the GP1 class here at Brands Hatch. Then in the Clubman's, that is your winner, Carl Simpson, ahead of Martin Brand and Sam Boyers.
First position in the stocks, Rob McNeely. A brilliant race for you there. How was it leading the way?
Yeah, it was fine. I just got a real good start, which makes a change. And I felt Phil behind me for about 6 laps. And I thought he's pushing, so I just keep pushing the whole entire race. And then I see on my pit board, +1, +2, and went +6 in the end. So I knew Phil had a bit of an incident. And apart from them, I just brought it home, nice and smooth.
A really good race. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Livis, Nationwide, Nearly Brown, D&M Motorcycles, HM Racing.
Danny, a great race. Barry Teasdale was right behind you. Could you feel the pressure off him?
Well, I didn't get too good of a start off the line today. I think if I try and hold off Alex, next time I might be able to hopefully get up with the guys at the front. I was trying to pace myself. I'm getting quite bad arm pump, not being on the bike for 6 months. But no, it was a good race, just making sure that I kept my head down and kept concentrating.
Keep it smooth. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to say a big thanks to Mark and Alan from Long Controls and Host Property Management. I didn't know I was racing until last Thursday, so they're great that they've come on board again this year. I'd like to thank Lisa for Dane Easy Levers and RI Helmet, Dave Tully, Dave Bostock, and Fleet Graphics.
Okay, well, coming up next is the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite, and a little earlier on, Grace caught up with one of the contenders, David Allingham.
I've managed to get down to the paddock. I'm here with last year's triple champion, David Allingham. Dave, I just wanted to catch you before your first race, because your year ahead is looking really great for you. Like I say, triple championship last year, and the 450s have been a real stepping stone for you to come on to your new 600.
Yeah, it was good. We had a good year last year. We stepped on the spike, new challenge, you know, new riders. And no, just coming from the 450s, it's just made the step so much easier, you know. The class is so competitive, and when I jumped on the 600, I just gelled with it. We had a good day yesterday. We made a few changes and got the bike how we wanted it, and today we just, hopefully we get out and do the same as yesterday, get away at the front and just keep a cool head and read my putt board and, you know, keep going.
And you've qualified on pole position, so it's looking really good. Who do you think your competition's going to be this year?
No, everybody. You know, you've got Daniel Frey, you've got Sam Cox and Adam Shelton. You know, there's so many of them that's at the front. You know, I don't really want to look behind too much and see them. But no, hopefully we can do the same as yesterday and get to the front and try to get away, and we won't have to worry about them too much. Hopefully, try and get another lap record on there, and yeah, I'll be happy enough.
Well, you're in a good starting position. So on your new bike this year, have you got any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to give a big shout out to last year's sponsor, Be More, you know. EHA Group, new sponsor on board Pipeworks, so big thanks to them. Ian Newton for everything he's done, he's so good, you know. And I've got a new mechanic this year, you know, a new chief mechanic, Adrian Gorst, and you know, he's on board, and we still got Rory there as well. So yeah, I'd just like to give a big thanks to them boys, you know, keeping me right, and I couldn't do it without them.
Well, thanks, guys. I absolutely love the fact that David Allingham just mentioned that he doesn't really want to look behind and see all of his competitors. He's already got his eyes fixed on a victory here for the Van Insurance 600 Sportsman Elite. And here he is, number 3, lining up on pole position. He was so good last year in the 450s, the overall Thundersport champion. He was awarded with that at the start of this year. There's Sam Cox, second on the grid, really good effort from him there. Third on the grid is Adam Shelton, of course, last year's Thundersport 500 champion. This is some grid. Daniel Freer, last year's champion with number 1, is on the second row ahead of Curtis Wright, and then last year's runner-up Richie McNeil, and then it's William White, Lee Williams and Reese Rothwell on row 3. We'll try and catch up with the rest in a minute because the lights go out, heads down, and away we go. A really good start there from Adam the Stinger Shelton on the inside. Who is this coming all the way around the outside of the lot of them? That is number 60. That's Ben Curry on the Motor Breakers Kawasaki from Australia. Well, I'm not going to say anything until we get confirmation, but he's 13th on the grid. If that's not a jump start, then he's done very well. An excellent onboard shot then from last year's 450 champion coming into Graham Hill Bend. Just gives you a perfect view as to how tight it is on the exit there. Flat out down the Cooper Straight. And this is exactly what David Allingham likes to see. Clear circuit into clearways here. Daunting, absolutely beautiful onboard shots there from onboard David Allingham, the Irishman who's looking to win the championship this year. This is, of course, Sportsman Elite 600, a class of Formula 600 tune machines, super stocks, pretty much out of the crate. They all score points collectively as well, which is the Sportsman Elite Championship. Daniel Freer won that last year, and Freer is on the blue and yellow Yamaha R6, just about moving into second place now. So Freer has got his eyes set on the Irishman up front. Now the really great news, I suppose, for us, if you watched last year, but perhaps not great news for Daniel Freer, is he knows all about David Allingham because he lost the 650 Mini Twins, the Super Twins Championship to him last year. So he raced against him in the 450. So he is probably absolutely fed up of the sight of David Allingham. And, well, he's going to have to chase him down now because Allingham is on a mission. He's jumped from that 450, he's making the transition look easy. Look at that already. In the early stages, he's got a decent advantage there. Sam Cox, Richie McNeil, as David Allingham mentioned, are riders that he's going to have to keep an eye on. Look at this view, down the dip into Paddock Hill Bend. Oh, I remember how that feels. That makes your tummy go. Into Druids, around here on your knee, and then on the power as early as you dare. Down the hill into Graham Hill. Beautiful circuit this. It is one of the shortest on the calendar, but if you come here and you don't like it, you're a liar. It is so wonderful, this little Brands Hatch Indy circuit. There is Sam Cox just trying to move up a place a bit further back, but Allingham it is that leads, number 3 here, the Irishman, a rider with such a great future ahead of him. Daniel Freer, more experience just behind him. He knows how to win championships. We've said so many times before at the start of seasons that it's so important to just get those points racked up on the board, but it is nice to see who who the candidates are for the championship, and these two guys are going to be up there all year long. There's no doubt about that. Sam Cox there, number 54, is in 3rd, then Curry in 4th. Now Curry has got a 20-second penalty for the jump start. I cannot say that I am surprised, but he's going to fall way back, unfortunately. He probably will know that he's got the jump start because he was the one that pinned the throttle back as they now come through Surtees and around through Clearways. That looks like the gap is coming down ever so slightly, despite the fact that Daniel Freer will have a few more horsepower in his bike. Around Brands Hatch you won't notice it quite so much, as we just glimpse back to see Freddie Sheen, number 77. Yes, that is Barry Sheen's son. Freddie Sheen out there, who came to Donington Park, his first ever race at the end of last year, and was right at the sharp end. Well, this is a step up for Freddie, who spent the majority of his life living in Australia. He's come back to race now, and well, he certainly looked to be a chip off the old block at Donington last year. Brands Hatch was the place Barry Sheen had so much success on. How will Freddie get on here today? This is a very very competitive field, let me tell you. Adam Shelton is up in the top 5. Always been interested to see how Adam gets on once he gets on a 600. He absolutely blasted away from the field last year in the Thundersport 500s, winning the championship ahead of Neil Bainbridge. But this is a good race so far. There's your leader, Allingham, up ahead of Daniel Freer and Sam Cox, and then Adam Shelton. Well, we're going to take a quick break. You're not going to want to go anywhere. This racing is brilliant. Be back in 2. Welcome back to Brands. There's your race leader, David Allingham. This is the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite. And super stock rider David Allingham backing it into Druids there. He leads from Daniel Freer, last year's champion, Sam Cox, Richie McNeil and Adam Shelton. As there is Freddie Sheen, number 77, mentioned him just before the break, heading around Druids, and Scott Adam. Nice to see Scott out there. He's decided to join these ballistic missiles and this group of mad men and women in the 600 class, full grid here this weekend. There is Sam Cox, number 54. Sam has decided to stick with the 600s this year, and I think that's a good idea. He's learned a lot last year, and he's just moved up another level this year. But it's Allingham that leads from Freer. Then a bit of a gap back to Cox and Adam Shelton. Then that's Ben Curry. You might as well just erase him from your memory for now, because he's got a 20-second penalty after a huge jump start, just ahead of Richie McNeil, number 22 on the Suzuki. Oh, and that's a faller in the background, just at Paddock Hill Bend there. Now, there's 2 riders with bike colours just like that. One is Lee Shellcross, and the other is Dean Mulcahy, who's borrowing the spare machine of Lee Shellcross, and that is Dean Mulcahy. And Dean, the reason he's borrowing Lee Shellcross's bike is because he totaled his, I think, at the very same corner. And he's done the same thing on borrowed machinery. That, you need to go and hide, Dean. Go and hide somewhere. That's not good news for him. And what a terrible weekend. He's looking very quick. Yellow flags being waved here as they drop down into Paddock Hill Bend. But what a performance so far from this man, David Allingham, number 3. Daniel Freer second, the champion, looking to close in. Then it's Cox from Shelton. That seems to be closing up. Adam Shelton and Sam Cox, they're familiar with one another. They both raced in super teams at the same time. And they're both raced in 500s, Thundersport 500s a couple of years back as well. So this is not a new battle that's developing between Cox and Shelton. These two have been at Thundersport since day one, since they were wee whippersnappers. And they're now grown men, and they're fighting it out on 600s at the sharp end of the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite race, no less. Further back there, you can see number 2, it's Jordan Rushby, the AL joinery machine, now back on board with David Allingham, down into Paddock Hill Bend. You really do get a decent feeling for how that looks. You can't really explain how it feels unless you do it, but around Druids corner they go, but Allingham in control at the moment, and here comes a move for 3rd. Adam Shelton, nice and neatly done there from Shelton to move up to 3rd. Cox left the smallest of gaps, but he goes straight through, and that's a decent move there from Shelton to move up. There's William White, he's up in the top 10. Reese Rothwell just a couple of places back. Reese, of course, the Street Fighter racer that you will have seen taking a few championships in the last few years. He's up inside the top 10. Bradley Jones, an X450 rider, is up in the top 12 as well. He's having a decent race at the moment with Joe Barton and James Pickford. But across the line they go. There's Lee Williams, different colour scheme for him this year on the Suzuki, back to blue, white and red. But Lee from Liverpool, definitely a rider worth keeping an eye out for. He's not actually been racing on the roads for that long. And Cox, is he going to return the favour? He is. That was tighter, but Cox says no, you don't, I want that back. And that was a great move from Sam Cox. As we see some more jostling for positions, that was Jones and Pickford going through. Now on the exit of Graham Hill, on board with David Allingham down the Cooper Straight, and then flicking left and right before they go into Clearway Corner. He's just managing that gap nicely. Back to the champion, Daniel Freer. He's leading the super stock race effectively by a mile because Freer is on that Formula bike, so slightly more tuned. This battle continues between Sam Cox, number 54 there, and then the orange and black bike of Adam Shelton, number 61. And is that Richie McNeil just closing in on the pair of them in the background? McNeil who's no stranger to finding the podium in this class. Last year, disaster. He missed the first round, he then turned up at the second, crashed in qualifying and missed the whole weekend, ended up runner-up in the season overall, and it is him. That's 47 Frank Gallagher, about to be lapped by Sam Cox and Adam Shelton, but the pair of them are being caught sharpish. That is Richie McNeil. There's 106 Joe Barton. He's currently up inside the top 11. And Freer looks to be closing in on David Allingham out front as well. So this is looking like turning into quite a tasty race as Sam Cox there in third place comes around Clearway corner on your knee for quite some time, and then it's just picked the right moment to get on the power. And you can take various lines through there, as you can see. Allingham it is that still leads. Lap times extremely quick. 48.2 from David Allingham as we come up the hill now into Druids Corner. If you're not on your knee around here, you're doing something wrong. And then really early on the power down the hill. It's so easy to high side out of Druids, but at the moment he's doing his best to keep Daniel Freer at bay. Forgets Osler there on the Kawasaki for now. I don't mean forget him in total. Osler is recovering from the most almighty crash at Donington Park last year. It's great just to see him back on the bike, but he is just being lapped at the moment. He'll be back to play at the sharp end later on in the year. It's the third place battle we're interested in. Cox has it, and he goes through there, number 54. Then it's Shelton 61, and look at Richie McNeil on the Suzuki, number 22. Richie, who's got some new sponsors for this year, means business, really does want to get as many points as possible. He is on a tuned Suzuki, so he's got a bit more power available to him. But as I said before, Brands Hatch Indy Circuit really doesn't make too much difference. You're not going to be able to use all of that available power. The top two go through. It's Cox in third, Shelton in fourth there on the orange and black Yamaha, Kawasaki, sorry. And there is Richard McNeil. Whoa! What a move there. Shelton did not need to leave much of a gap, and McNeil has flown through. McNeil not had to race Adam Shelton on a circuit before. Their paths have not crossed. They have now, and it's round one of the season, and McNeil moves up ahead of Adam Shelton and sets his sights on Sam Cox just ahead. And look at the rear tyre, leaving a black mark, a black line on the road. The last lap flag is out. It is David Allingham that has the advantage. I can't see that changing now because Freer looks pretty comfortable in second. Third, further back, that is Lee Williams. He's in sixth. He's not been able to tag onto the back of that group, including Cox, McNeil and Shelton. I don't think Cox is going to get caught by McNeil either. But what a performance from David Allingham. He won so many races last year. He was in such great company in the 450s. It looked so close, and yet he was able to win the 450 championship. He was one of the first champions of 2013. He jumps onto a 600. He's lapping low 48s, which for March around Brands Hatch is incredible. And he's going to take the win here. David Allingham wins again. The Van Insura 600 Sportsman Elite. He sounded cocky and confident before when Gray spoke to him. He'll be even more happy now. Just behind him, Daniel Freer, the champion. I think Freer will be content with that. He's a clever, clever rider. And on board here with David Allingham, he just gets the thumbs up from Daniel Freer. Those two have raced together quite some time over the last 12 months. Third place did go to Sam Cox. A good ride from him ahead of Richie McNeil, and Adam Shelton was in 5th place and Lee Williams 6th. Though it's Allingham that wins in the Super Stocks, Freer that wins in the Formula 600. Some great racing here, Thundersport GB, Brands Hatch, and it's only round one. There is David Allingham then winning the Super Stock race ahead of Cox and Shelton. And in the Formula 600s, it's Freer, McNeil and Reese Rothwell.
First position goes to David Allingham. David, we're seeing you up here on the podium again in the 450s all the time, and now on the 600s. I think you're one to look out for.
Yeah, being on the 450s is such a good building step, you know, and it's just given me the confidence to just jump on the 600 and ride it, you know. Just I'm not even changed anything about it. I'm just riding it like my 450, and the 450 class is so competitive, and that's makes it an easier step. As soon as I jump on the 600, I just click with it, you know. But yeah, we rode a good race, and still could go a bit faster yet, hopefully. But just like to thank everybody, you know, Ian Newton for everything. He's, you know, I wouldn't even have a bike if it wasn't for him at the moment. My new chief mechanic, Adrian, my mechanic Rory, my dad, Gio, Nicky, you know, pipe works as well for, you know, supplying the pipes, and yeah, everybody, Matt Walsh and that coming down with his dad, everybody supports me, thank you very much. Be more, he hits A group, sorry. Thanks very much.
Thank you, well done, Dave. First position goes to Dan. Dan, a great race, battling with David Allingham again. It's another round. Do you think it's going to look the same all year? Is he going to be your competition?
Yeah, if he sticks at it like, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's maybe going to British Championship, so he's definitely fast enough to go there. I got behind him in that race, and I don't know, he was just seemed to be able to open the throttle a little bit earlier than me, and I don't know, I'll try and find a solution for the next race, I think.
Well, good luck for the next one. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Barry, Bass Tyres and NL Components. That's it.
Thank you, well done.
Well, thanks very much indeed. Don't go anywhere, folks. 2 races gone, 2 still to go. The Bike Insurer Thundersport GP1's up next. Welcome back to Brands Hatch for Thundersport Elite. It is time for the Bike Insurer Thundersport GP1 Race 2. Phil Crow here. Well, a few adjustments to his bike, no doubt, because of that massive crash into Paddock Hill in race 1. Can he put it right here? Rob McNeely there, number 30. Well, he won race 1. He won here yesterday as well. Will he do the same again? Number 1 there, Danny Murphy, will be looking for a different story. Further back, you can just see there, 110, Stephen Murphy, John Waghorn and Alex Heaton on row 2, and on row 3 is Carl Simpson, Barry Teasdale and David Allingham. So, Crow, oh, front wheel in the air there, and he's going to lose a bit of time already. It's going to be McNeely with the hold shot by a considerable margin, but Phil Crow has been swallowed up into turn 1, and he's got a bit of work to do already. Sweeping to the inside line there already is Danny Murphy, and he's got Alex Heaton for company. Phil Crow, I think, went into turn 1 in around about 4th place. Yes, there he is on the blue, yellow and white BMW. He's already trying to get past Danny Murphy in 3rd place. Danny said in his last interview, I want to get ahead of Alex Heaton, so I've got a chance at chasing down this man on the day glow orange, or whatever colour really you want to call it. This machine here of Rob McNeely's that leads from Heaton. Phil Crow has gone up the inside of Danny Murphy there, so he's moved up to 3rd place. Good move that. There's not a lot of room around clearways. There is Chris Kingham, a former Thundersport 500 championship contender, and across the line for the first time. I'll tell you, that's quite a big lead, considering it's only the first lap, so job done so far for Rob McNeely. Lap times, well, in race 1, a 47.7 from McNeely. The lap record is a 47.5, but McNeely has broken the previous Superstock 1000 lap record that was standing 48.06 from Mick Robertson a few years back. That's completely been smashed to smithereens as they exit Graham Hill, down the Cooper Straight and into Surtees. McNeely leads from Alex Heaton, number 111. Alex from Sowerby Bridge on the AL Joinery Suzuki. Then Phil Crow, number 71 there, and his leathers are looking a bit second-hand, aren't they, after that monster crash into turn 1. I think that Phil might just approach this slightly differently. If he can get into second, he'll do everything he can to close down a McNeely, but he cannot afford another fall. You can't win a championship at the first round, but you can certainly lose it. And another DNF and no points will not be good news for Phil Crow. Further back there, you can just see number 16 again, that's Carl Simpson. And I'll have to check with Phil Crow as we see a change for position there. 115, John Waghorn up the inside. And moving up a place, John Waghorn, this is his local circuit, so he is a fan of the place. He went well here at Brands Hatch last year in the damp conditions. I just mentioned about Carl Simpson. That looks like an exact replica of Phil Crow's bike, so I just wonder if Simpson is running out of the same garage as Phil Crow for this year. But it's McNeely that leads from 111, Alex Heaton. McNeely trying to stretch out that advantage. This, just like the first race, 16 laps, which might not sound a lot, but this is quite a physical circuit. There's Crow in 3rd place, up ahead of last year's Superstock 1000 champion Danny Murphy. He mentioned in his interview also that he's been off the bike for 6 months. He's been struggling with an injury and he does suffer. He's one of a few riders that suffers with the dreaded arm pump. And 1 or 2 riders sometimes go in for surgery, others opt not choose not to do anything about it at all, but it is a massive problem for some of these riders. Number 30 it is that leads. That looks like the gap has come down. Alex Heaton is just starting to pull him in a bit here, and Phil Crow's joining in. In fact, on that last lap, Alex Heaton was quicker than Rob McNeely, so the gap coming down further back. Danny Murphy, as we mentioned, Barry Teasdale, Steve Murphy, Connor Tagg on the Ducati, but it's McNeely that leads, and look at that gap that's coming down. The black and orange and red machine, 1-1-1 there. Alex Heaton, who spent so much time out of the saddle last year, has started like a rocket this season. There's Steve Murphy, number 110 from Folkestone on the Smurfsport Racing Kawasaki. Folkestone not a million miles away from Brands here, so you perhaps would expect to see Steve running well here at his local circuit. McNeely it is that leads though, another rider who is ever so familiar with this Brands circuit. There may be only 5 or 6 turns around Brands, but technically it is difficult to master. You can hit a brick wall when it comes to lap times and just not find any speed, but you've just got to go lap upon lap upon lap, and eventually, hopefully, you'll break that wall down and start closing in, just like these two guys are on the race leader. Rob McNeely not having things his own way. They're already coming up to traffic here. Whoa! Around the outside of one and up the inside of another, frightening the life, I would imagine, out of Peter Hobday, who's just had a lap put on him, into Druids. Rob McNeely has been told by his pit board that he's got company, as we just see David Brooke going around there. There is number 9, that's James Buchanan, about to be lapped by Rob McNeely as well, and McNeely just slides underneath him, and just there in second place is Heaton and then Crow. Unfortunately for Danny Murphy, his plans that he had for race 2 are not panning out, as we see a quick glimpse there of 181, Neil Watson and Adrian Clark, number 3, 2 riders that are so used to finishing in the top 5 of races, but they're going to have their work cut out here. They're down in 12th and 13th at the moment. Still McNeely that leads, but this is not a replica of race 1. For a start, Phil Crow has completed more than the laps that he did last time. They go around Druids. Crow perhaps not looking right. Oh, and there's a rider. There's a couple of riders down into Druids. One of them is Carl Simpson, and who is the other? Not 100% sure as yet. Now then, let's see if we can work that out. That looks like Jordan Watling, I've got to say, and it is. It's Carl Simpson and Jordan Watling that have both gone down together. Jordan Watling didn't look particularly happy about that, so that's a real shame, that is, for both riders concerned. There is number 27. That's Brian Fuige, who's just getting lapped by the race leaders. But you can see there the various pit boards being held out for the top 4 or 5. This pace is very, very quick indeed. And Alex Heaton is not only closed in on the race leader, but he's also just put a bit of distance between himself and Phil Crow in 3rd. I wonder if that crash from earlier from Phil Crow has just taken the stuffing out of him a bit, as that crash from earlier just gets cleared up. That was from Carl Simpson and Jordan Watling earlier. That means a few riders have just lifted themselves up in the standings. Connor Tagg moves up into 8th place now, ahead of Sam Cox and Simon Crinchlow. Martin Brand 11th, and Adrian Clark is next up. Decent grid of riders this, but we've lost a couple. Buchanan went down just before that, and Dan Hill, I don't know whether he had another mechanical failure, but he went missing on the 1st lap. But as it is, Rob McNeely has the advantage. There was 2 and 100 just going through. That was Critchlow and Connor Tagg we mentioned earlier. So Critchlow having another decent ride. But this is your race leader, Rob McNeely. A 47.753 is his fastest lap. That's so close to the lap record overall here at Brands, but not quite close enough, as they put a lap on Bill Callister, 194. Alex Heaton is matching him lap by lap for pace, but he cannot find a way past him. Catching him is one thing, but the great Murray Walker used to say overtaking is another entirely, and that is exactly right here for Alex Heaton, because he cannot, well, he's not quite on his tail, so he's not going to be able to launch an attack just yet. McNeely's not putting a foot wrong. Phil Crow, I don't think he's going to win this, you know. I think he might just settle for the 16 points in 3rd place overall. He's got a decent advantage up ahead of Danny Murphy, who's coming under attack, actually. Just out of our shots from John Waghorn, number 115. as we see there, number 2, Simon Critchlow again. McNeely, another lap gone into Paddock Hill, and now this is a situation, unlike race 1, where he cannot afford to make any mistakes. He's going to have to thread his way through these tail enders very carefully, and that won't help as they exit Druids. He goes around the outside, but, oh, he's just got in the way. It's not his fault, let's not forget. These riders at the back here, it's the leaders' jobs to get past, but that's helped Rob McNeely out a bit there, because Alex Heaton just got held up slightly going into Graham Hill. It's a corner that really only has one line through there, very difficult to overtake into unless you've got it absolutely spot on and nailed. So there is Connor Tagg and Simon Critchlow, so Tagg through on Critchlow now, and then the 600 of Sam Cox. We'll see him in the 600 race just after you watch the conclusion of this GP1 race. And that gap, just every time you think McNeely might have stretched out a bit, Alex Heaton closes up. But where is he going to get an overtaking manoeuvre done? I think the only chance Alex Heaton has got is if he can get some decent drive out of the final turn and then maybe launch an attack into turn 1. That seems to be where he's quickest. But he can't get close enough here, which means that that plan is out of the window, because to get close to Rob McNeely, you need to be right on his tail around about here. And McNeely, every line at the moment is looking very good indeed as they exit Clark Curve and head on to the start-finish straight here at Brands Hatch. That was Barry Teasdale just going through. He's up in 6th place ahead of Steve Murphy. Teasdale, one of the biggest improvers from last year, a rider that doesn't actually have that much experience. He won the pre-National 600 Championship in his novice year a couple back, and last year his first season on 1,000, and he finished in the top 3 of the Superstock Championship overall. Phil Crow, perhaps a bit battered and bruised after that crash from race 1. He's going to have to settle for 16 points here at best as he comes around Graham Hill. His lap times at the moment 47.642. Well, I'll tell a lie, that's the fastest lap of the race. He's just a 10th away from Steve Mercer's lap record. But this is the race leader, Rob McNeely, number 30. Just doing enough at the moment to keep Alex Heaton behind him. So that is 1st and 2nd. In 3rd place there is Phil Crow. That is the top 3 in GP1 so far. It's Brands Hatch, round 1 of 2014 here. Thundersport GB, the bike insurer Thundersport GP1 race. And well, Rob McNeely looking to get a hat-trick of wins. Here he is, number 30, leading Alex Heaton, 1-1-1. Phil Crow, who came into this weekend with so many hopes and expectations, unfortunately for him. A big crash in race 1 here earlier in the programme, and he's just in 3rd place at the moment. Rob McNeely just coming up to some traffic, lapping Chris Kingham, and now about to put a lap on Darren Cooper also. He's just got that gap, you know, it's only about half a second or so, but it's enough to not have it. Oh my word, Alex Heaton there, going to put a lap on Chris Kingham, and poor Chris having to sit up. Alex will have lost some time there, but they both could have found themselves in the gravel. A big moment there for Alex Heaton. And yeah, you can see the difference. There's a couple of tenths been gained there from Rob McNeely. He hasn't got eyes in the back of his head, so he won't be able to see what's going on. But if Heaton continues like that, his chances of winning this race are going to be over. As it is, he's finding it tough to just get close enough to make a move on McNeely, but they are your top 2 still. Further back, there is Barry Teasdale, number 224, having a good race once more, the rider from Prideaux on the Bob Henderson Racing Kawasaki. But McNeely has the advantage. A good solid lap for McNeely there as well. Just makes life a bit more difficult for Heaton as they come up to put a lap on Neil Bainbridge, another X500 rider on a Kawasaki for this year. Well, Chris Kingham, well, blimey, he's having a bit of a mare down into Druids. He almost got knocked off by Alex Heaton a moment ago, and then he just did his best to try and run into the back of Cooper. Oh my word, a bit of a moment there for Danny Murphy as well. This has not gone Danny Murphy's way this race. I think he'll be just settling for the points, but that's John Waghorn closing in on him. And I've got to say that if Danny continues to have moments like that, he'll just be praying for the checkered flag to come out. Bainbridge is getting lapped now by Bob McNeely. as they come across the line, and that gap has opened up to back to second place. The last lap flag is out, and I think that's all over. So clever riding this from Rob McNeely. He's just continued with these great laps, and that mistake from Alex Heaton earlier has just cost him a bit. There wasn't really an awful lot he could do about it, but Rob McNeely just has not put a foot wrong. He's been like mustard, carving his way through all of the back markers, and he exits Cooper straight and onto Surtees. This surely can't go wrong for McNeely now. I'm saying that, and I know perfectly well that it has done for lots of riders in the past. We don't want to give him the commentary curse as he comes out of clearways for the final time. Rob McNeely is going to take 3 out of 3 here at Brands Hatch at round 1. Superb performance from McNeely. He wins on his home circuit. It's a really good, solid second place, though, from Alex Heaton in second. And that's a decent result from Heaton. He should be very happy indeed with his weekend's work. In third place will be the former champion, Phil Crow. So that's 16 points, and he stayed sunny side up this time. Fourth place did go to John Waghorn, and he managed to get Danny Murphy on that last lap. So he takes fourth place, Danny Murphy fifth. Barry Teasdale ends the day in sixth place on board his Kawasaki. So Rob McNeely wins the Super Stocks ahead of Alex Heaton and John Waghorn. Good result for him. Phil Crow, the winner in GP1 ahead of Murphy and Sam Cox. And it was Martin Brand that won the Clubmans ahead of Sam Boyers and Michael Mates. So the points going into round 2, Rob McNeely has the advantage. Had a great weekend for Heaton. He goes into Donington second overall. In the Super Stock 1000, McNeely 15 points the advantage ahead of Heaton. Waghorn third ahead of Teasdale, Martin Brand and Carl Simpson. Pre-National Sport Thousands, that is the Clubman Championship from last year. Brand has the advantage ahead of Boyers, Simpson in third, then Mace, Fuidge and James Buchanan.
Phil, unfortunately in the first race he had a bit of a tumble, but now you're back on the podium, so you must be chuffed. What happened in the first race?
Yeah, just chasing McNeely down. His bike's really fast down the straights. I'm consistently putting in faster lap times than him, but struggling to get past him because of the gap he opens up. So I was just pushing on through Paddock Hill Bend, fast corner, probably 110, maybe 120 mile an hour, third gear corner, and just lost the front and barrel rolled the bike and myself through the gravel and destroyed the bike. I've been lucky to get it back together actually. A lot of expense there in that one, but yeah, just very good weekend, successful, happy, fastest lap in every race I think, but just a bit of bad luck on the other side, so I'm happy to go away to say that we're progressing with the speed. Just didn't get the results we wanted.
And looking forward to Donington Park?
Yeah, looking forward to Donington. We've got the new engine for Donington Park, so yeah, that's where I always suffer with power and straight line speed, but we should be on it at Donington Park and should progress again.
Good result for you. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, a lot of sponsors to thank. New sponsor come on board this year for the roads campaign that we're taking up the Isle of Man TT on the Northwest 200, possibly the Ulster Grand Prix and Macau Grand Prix at the end of the year. That's Hans Trans Haulage from Immingham. Mel Hand has come on board this year for this season to help us financially and just help us progress and achieve what we're trying to achieve. Also Holbitch Motorcycle Tyres, Fleetwood Grab Services, Objective Modernisation, B&C Express, and a string of other people that always come to help as well.
First position goes to Rob. A brilliant race out there, leading the pack. How is it out on the 1000 grid? Is it good leading the pack?
Yeah, it was fine. I got a good start again and then just pushed from the front and just kept a steady pace, and that was it. I thought a few of the boys were going to come past, but I just stayed steady and yeah, happy days. 3 wins this weekend, so can't moan.
No, keep it pinned. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Nationwide, Livis, Nearly Brown, Carwin Motorcycles, KNS Racing. I didn't really thanks everyone else that helped me out.
Well, coming up next then, it is the Van Insurer 600 Sportsman Elite. Blue skies, look at that. We could be in Barbados. A nice cool breeze, absolutely perfect weather conditions for some motorcycle racing. And David Allingham here, number 3 on the white Yamaha R6, will be looking to repeat his performance from earlier on. That's the Scruffs machine of Adam Shelton, new sponsor for this year, and there is Sam Cox, number 54. That's Amy, his grid girl. She's actually the grid girl coordinator for Thundersport GB, but she's cooling off her fella, ready for the start of this race and wishing him luck as Dave walks off to the side, ready for the crazy 600s. They're going to charge down to Paddock Hill. Look out for Daniel Freer there, number 1 on the second row, the champion of last year. Away they go, the lights go out and down into turn 1. Looks like a good start for Shelton, but a better one for David Allingham as they tip down into Paddock Hill Bend, and it is Allingham that is in charge. Of course, he won the first race ahead of Daniel Freer, and Freer's moved up into second place. The 600s all try and cram into Druids there. We see number 98, Andrew Fisher, just behind Bradley Jones there, number 7. Nice to see Bradley out there. They tip into Surtees and tip right. It's Allingham that leads, but and Allingham's gone down, and that's a fast crash. My word, that is a monumental crash for David Allingham. When he punches the I'm alive, so now I'll show my frustration. That is a monster crash. It's so quick there, just as you flick right. Let's have a look at this in the slow-mo. We just lose sight of him, but he's not even on the brakes here. He's gone in a little too hot, maybe a bit too wide. Look at that bike. Oh, he is so lucky not to get followed in by the bike. I'm very pleased indeed to see that he's up and he's walking away. That bike might be a bit second-hand though. Monster crash for David Allingham, having won the race from earlier and set a new Superstock 600 lap record of a 48.292. He goes out on the opening lap here, and he's left Daniel Freer, last year's champion, out alone. Daniel, who has such a smooth and calm, relaxed riding style, will be loving every minute of this. Of course, you never want to see your rivals go down, but he'll probably be aware when he sees David Allingham punching some sort of tyre wall somewhere that David is up and okay, and will have to come back for the next round. So it's Freer that has the advantage now from Adam Shelton. I should just point out, I mentioned that David Allingham broke the Superstock 600 lap record. The outright 600 lap record in race 1 was also broken by Daniel Freer. That was a 48.259. That beat Ben Field's lap record that's been standing for a couple of years now. So well done to Daniel Freer. There is Sam Cox, number 54, just having a decent battle there with Adam Shelton. He's got his nose in front of Shelton now, and they're resuming that battle that started back in race 1. Freer it is with a nice advantage. That's about a second and a bit. Richie McNeil is in 4th place, and that's a better start. Earlier on in race 1, he had to do all the work late on in the race. There's Lewis Osler, who's just a bit further back, having a decent battle there with Ozzy Mady, who's our 400 champion from last year. But it's Daniel Freer, who was the overall Sportsman Elite 600 champion that won this last season. He is leading from Sam Cox there, 54. Then in 3rd is Shelton, then it's McNeil, and then Lee Williams, number 94. But realistically speaking, as we see a rider just pulling up here, that's Joe Barton, and that's his gear shift gone. That's yeah, that's not good news. Out of the race, mechanical failure for Joe. It's a shame because Joe was up in the top 10, so unfortunate for him. It is Daniel Freer that leads. They tip left and right into Surtees. That is where we lost David Allingham a moment ago, and Daniel Freer had front row seat to that as they come around clearways. Lee Williams is looking in slightly better shape. Adam Shelton, no surprise to see him getting the rear tyre lit up out of clearways. He did that on the 500 last year, so good battle for second place, but they are really going to have to work hard to close down on the race leader Daniel Freer. Behind Lee Williams, number 94, that is Curtis Wright, and then number 6, that's Reese Rothwell. So a really competitive field here in the 600s. There's champions, former Thundersport champions, all the way down the top 12, 13. We're going to take a quick break, folks. Don't go anywhere. Daniel Freer leads at the moment. Welcome back to Brands Hatch for round 1 of the Thundersport GB Championships here on Thundersport Elite. The Vanisher 600 Sportsman Elite at the moment. Leader David Allingham went down on lap 1 into Surtees, but he is up and okay. Big crash though. Freer it is that leads. He's gone through, number 1. Last year's champion, Cox in 2nd. And then all of these riders realistically just trying to get themselves onto the podium as they head up in towards Druids. There is Cox in second. McNeil now up to third, ahead of Shelton. Then Williams and Curtis Wright there, number 74. Curtis Wright, a very, very solid rider. You keep your eye on him throughout the season. He will climb and be fighting for wins this year. Do not make any mistake about that. Other riders just worth mentioning. Bradley Jones, it's his first ever weekend on a 600. Qualified 14th. He's up in the top 10 at the moment. Stephen Parsons qualified 17th and is up there battling with Pickford. Further back, Lee Shallcross qualified quite poorly, actually, 27th. I hope he won't mind me saying that. But he's up battling for points at the moment. He's made up some 9 or 10 places. And likewise, Matt Pearce, who started 29th, he's up into around about 17th, 18th place. But this is just a field full of great riders. And you look at the lap times, I mean, 600 races in the past at Brands Hatch. If you came to Brands and on a 600 you were putting in times of around 49, you'd be looking to come away with a trophy. Well, not so here, I'm afraid. Scott Adam is currently in 14th and he's lapping in 49s. So make of that what you will. The field is very, very competitive this year at Thundersport GB, and their long-lasting lap records in Super Stocks and Formula 600s have disappeared thanks to this man here, Daniel Freer, and the absent David Allingham, who's watching at the moment from Surtees. But well, Freer's lead might just be in front here as Cox closed that gap down maybe a little. There's Curtis Wright and Lee Williams, and number 6 on the red Triumph there. That was Reese Rothwell, last year's Street Fighter Extreme champion, and the previous year's Street Fighter Extreme champion and Street Fighter A champion. He knows his way around a bike. Freer, obviously last year's overall champion. So all of these riders in this top 6, 7, 8 have all fought for some sort of Thundersport championship in the past. So it really is great to see them all fighting it out here on the 600. Across the line we go. Freer still leads from Cox, McNeil. Orange and black bike is Shelton's. Then this is the fight side by side around the outside for Lee Williams. That's not going to work for him this time. That was with Curtis Wright. Curtis Wright, who was fighting, I think it was about 2009 for the GP3 Championship along with Fraser Rogers back in 09. Good to see him out here at the moment. Daniel Freer it is that leads overall, tipping into Surtees. He's just managing that gap well. Lap time's not quite as quick as race 1, but then he's not got David Allingham to chase down at the moment. He's just trying to keep an eye. This is good laps from Sam Cox though. He really has come on from last season even. He's currently lapping 48.7 is Sam Cox, and McNeil exactly the same just behind. McNeil, if he can just come away from here with some points, he'll be doing so much better than he did last year, where he dumped it down the road at the first couple of rounds. Number 26 just going through is William White, and then Andrew Fisher, number 98 on the Yamaha R6. So Bradley Jones up in the top 9. All of these lap times are so close. Just a 10th or 2 in them as they tip into Druids. There is 26 William White just trying to close in on Lee Williams. Lee Williams, who was a complete novice to motorcycle racing on the roads. I think it was last year or the season before, sorry, when he entered pre-national halfway through the year, having spent most of his young career motocross and supermotoing. Daniel Freer here, more experienced than the majority of the field at the moment. That doesn't mean he's old, he's certainly not. It's just that he's, at the moment, one of those riders that has got the experience of winning a championship. There's Chris Helliwell, currently in the points, number 64 on the Bright Machine. But Daniel Freer, who really impressed to see him come out and want to defend this title this year. He said he knew that the competition was going to be stiff, and it's really nice to see a rider with a number 1 plate on board as well. It's just a personal niggle that I have with riders that have this superstitious fear of the number 1 plate, but it does make things a lot easier when you're trying to find where the champion is. Just look for the number 1 plate. And there is just a bit further back Josh Hill, number 25. Josh, who was last year in the pre-national 600s, a class for riders without the national licence just yet. He's made the step up this year. He's going to find life tough to begin with, but he's a talented rider, young Josh, and he'll come good, don't you worry about that. Frank Gallagher there, number 47, just about being lapped, and there is Scott Adam, number 38. Scott, who won the Street Fighter A Championship last year, moving into this hugely competitive 600 field. So far, it's amazing, isn't it, how Daniel Freer is able to lap in the low 48s and not really look like he's doing much work, because he's got that lovely relaxed riding style, doesn't let the bike get out of shape. And there are a few riders that used to be very successful doing things like that, Neil Mackenzie, etc. As they drop down into Graham Hill Bend. There's Gallagher about to be lapped by Shelton, but Shelton's coming under a bit of pressure here from Curtis Wright, number 74. They're side by side as they tip into Surtees, and we'll have to wait and see how that one turned out. But it's Freer that still has the advantage as he goes through ahead of Cox. Daniel Freer still sponsored by BTS and NL Components for this year. Likewise, Sam Cox on the Apprentice Racing Yamaha. He's still sporting the same sponsorship. Richie McNeil has picked up some new sponsors, I believe, for this season. They're planted all over his levers, and once we get an interview with him later on in the season, he'll be able to thank all of those. It looks to me like he might have a bit of Morello Services planted on the side of that bike somewhere. As this battle continues between Shelton and Curtis Wright, tipping into Druids. And McNeil's also sponsored by the bike insurer, coincidentally, who sponsor the GP1 class. The van insurer, the same company, sponsoring this class, but they have been loyal supporters of Thundersport since coming in. And Richie McNeil is flying the flag for them as well, as they come around clearways onto Clark Curve to tick off another lap. That's Lewis Osler, number 82. Who just had the most horrific crash at Donington last year. I think you probably could say it was life-threatening at one point. He went to hospital, and there was quite a bit of concern for Lewis, but it's great to see him back out on a bike and hopefully back to his best shortly. There is 74 Curtis Wright once more. It really has been about this man. Shame that we couldn't see a decent fight between Allingham and Freer, but Allingham has gone down. There's Freddie Sheen, number 77. Freddie, who went down in race 1, cartwheeled the bike, and this is a really strong field, so he's just getting the feeling for the bike out there. I mean, he's not lapping actually that bad, it's just that this is a competitive grid as Richie McNeil chases him down. In the closing stages of this race, there's number 7 and 6, Bradley Jones and Reese Rothwell. The last lap flag is out. Bradley Jones, I mentioned, number 7 there, coming from the 450 Championship. Couldn't quite get a win last year, really unlucky not to get one. But here on this final lap, we're looking at the champion who's about to take a win. Yesterday, incidentally, it was a win for David Allingham. Curtis Wright and Freer was 3rd, so this will be Freer's first win of the season, and he'll be only too happy to take that. He will exit this round as the championship leader with this win, which is exactly what he will have set out to do, and he's not had to work quite as hard for it as he perhaps thought, with Allingham going out on lap 1. Just a couple of corners left now for Freer, the rider from Scunthorpe, ex-Superstock 600 competitor at BSB, but last year the runner-up in the Super Twins class, the champion of this, and he's going to cross the line to win, as we just see a quick glimpse of Andrew Fisher, who's going to come around and finish in 7th place. So the checkered flag is out, and it is going to be Daniel Freer that takes win number 1 of the season. He has a look over his shoulder. There's no one there, Daniel. You've got a couple of seconds back to Sam Cox. That really is a very, very good effort from Cox, though. He's lapping in the 48s. He's taken a Superstock 600 win as well. He's got himself sandwiched in between 2 more tuned engines. Look at that slow-mo in the background of Allingham flying. 3 wins from Cox. McNeil in 3rd place. Curtis Wright takes 4th. That's an improvement from race 1. Adam Shelton, his first weekend on a 600 there in 5th. And there you see a very happy race winner, Daniel Freer in the Formula 600s, and Sam Cox, the happy man, the winner of the Superstock 600s ahead of Curtis Wright and Adam Shelton. So the points overall, Daniel Freer has an 11-point advantage over David Allingham. Then it's Cox, McNeil in 4th, Shelton 5th, and Curtis Wright in 6th, but very close. In the Formula 600s, the tune machines, Freer has the advantage over McNeil, who'll be happy to take some points away from this opening round. Rothwell 3rd ahead of Pierce, Gregory and Parsons. And to the Superstock 600s, it's Cox that has the advantage, but it's not by much ahead of Allingham, Shelton, Wright, Williams and William White.
Formula 600 winner Dan Freer. Dan, another win for you. You must be really chuffed here at Brands.
Yeah, it's gone well. We won on the twin earlier and just won out on the 600. We made a few improvements to the bike over the winter. We didn't go too drastic. We've got, I thought, a quick shifter and the change of suspension would put us on the level playing field with McNeil and Curtis Wright, and it seems to have done the job.
And unfortunately, David Allingham had a crash in that race. Did you see anything in front of you?
Yeah, I was right behind him when it happened. It looked like maybe a cold tyre or something like that, just maybe caught him out. But I'm sure it'd have been tough competition like if it had stayed on.
Definitely. Any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Barry at Bass Tyres, Northlands Components and Paul Burrell.
And winner of the stocks, Sam Cox, a brilliant result. You're really trying hard in that race, you can tell on the track, and it's paid off for you, trophy in your hands. How was the race for you?
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. It was a shame that David Allingham fell off in the opening 2 laps. He was pushing hard, so it was one of those things. I'm over the moon. I just was watching Dan Freer ahead of us. He had about a 2-second lead. He was just going backwards and forwards. I'm over the moon with this weekend. I can't say how happy I am, and just loving every minute. And the bike's working so well. And I'd just like to say thank you to Chris Moore, who's really set up the bike well and got it working. And all the support and family I've had this weekend. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Sam. Really well done.
Okay.
Well, that's it from a glorious Brands Hatch here and round 1. Round 2 will come to you next month, but for myself, Steve Down, from Grace Webb down in pit lane, we'll see you then.